Welcome to Vietnam, a country of incredible beauty and a culture capable of captivating visitors. Despite all this beauty, the country hides a sad reality that affects thousands of people, especially women. For these women, life in this country is filled with difficulties and daily suffering in the struggle for survival. Stay with us until the end of the video and discover the dark side of Vietnam that people don't tell you about. Vietnam is located in Southeast Asia with a coastline stretching along the South China Sea. It borders China to the north, Laos and Cambodia to the west, and the ocean to the east, covering an area of about 331,000 square kilometers. Vietnam is home to approximately 100 million people, making it the 15th most populous country in the world. Its landscape is diverse, with mountains, plains, and lush coastline, but it is in the cities and villages where most of the population lives, where life is full of contrasts between modernity and tradition. What many don't know, however, is that in addition to all the natural and cultural beauty that Vietnam offers, the country still carries the deep scars left by the Vietnam War, which ended in 1975. During the conflict, the United States used Agent Orange, a highly toxic chemical substance which caused devastating damage to the population and the environment. Although the war ended decades ago, the consequences of this chemical warfare continue to haunt the country to this day. Thousands of Vietnamese, including many women, still suffer from the effects of Agent Orange. Exposure to this substance caused serious health issues such as cancer, skin diseases, birth defects in children, and complications in generations born after the war ended. This has led to a large number of people with medical needs that have not been fully addressed, as many still live in areas where the healthcare system is limited. These difficulties, combined with poverty and lack of resources, create a bleak scenario for many Vietnamese who face not only the struggle for survival but also the legacies of a dark past. Walking through the streets of Vietnam's capital Hanoi, it's impossible not to notice the ethnic diversity that shapes the country. Vietnam is home to more than 50 distinct ethnic groups, each with its own culture, language, and traditions. The majority of the population is made up of the Viet or Kin, who represent about 85% of the population. In addition to them, there are other ethnicities, such as the Tay Muang Khmer and Hoang, each contributing to the many faces of Vietnam and its unique histories. Among the minority ethnic groups, the Tay and Muang stand out as the largest non-Viet groups, with approximately 2 million people each. These groups, especially in the northern and central regions, keep their traditions alive through language, clothing, and forms of celebration. However, despite the diversity, the Vietnamese government has encouraged the integration of these communities into the dominant culture, which has brought both benefits and challenges for preserving these cultural identities. Regarding religion, Vietnam has a wide diversity of beliefs. The majority of the population follows Buddhism, especially its Mahayana and Theravada branches, with many practitioners being ethnic Kin, Vietnamese. In addition to Buddhism, Catholicism has a significant presence, with about 7% of the Vietnamese population, mainly in the central and southern regions. Protestantism, Hinduism, and traditional beliefs also coexist, showing peaceful coexistence between various doctrines. Religious practice in Vietnam is deeply integrated into daily life, with many Vietnamese participating in rituals at temples, homes, or religious festivals. Although it is an officially atheist country, due to the socialist government, religious freedom is respected, with many Vietnamese celebrating their beliefs either discreetly or openly, depending on the region they live in. Regarding languages, Vietnamese or Tiếng Viet is the official language of the country and is spoken by almost the entire population. Additionally, there are distinct regional dialects, such as those of the North, Central, and South, which feature some variations in vocabulary and pronunciation. English, although taught in schools and increasingly popular in major cities, is not widely spoken. Spoken by the general population, which can pose a challenge for those looking to visit the country. Vietnam's economy has experienced remarkable growth in recent decades, emerging as one of the most dynamic economies in Southeast Asia. The official currency of the country is the Vietnamese dong, which has proven to be unstable over time, especially the US dollar. Vietnam's political system is a one-party, socialist regime, with the Communist Party of Vietnam being the only legal political party in the country controlling both economic and political decisions. Although the country has embraced the free market in various areas, the government still maintains tight control over many sectors. The main sectors of the Vietnamese economy include agriculture, manufacturing, and services, with a focus on rice, coffee, and textile production. Vietnam is also one of the largest exporters of electronics and footwear, and tourism has become an important part of the economy. However, despite this growth, the country still faces enormous challenges, such as inadequate infrastructure, which affects both transportation and the population's quality of life. Many regions of the country still lack proper access to basic services such as electricity, clean water, and healthcare. The daily life of most Vietnamese citizens continues to be a struggle for survival. Although the middle class has grown, a large portion of the population still lives on low wages, especially in rural areas. Vietnam has a significant disparity between life in the major cities and more remote areas, making life difficult for many families who struggle to secure enough food, quality education, and adequate healthcare. Poverty remains a persistent problem, with millions of people relying on small businesses or informal jobs to survive. Regarding the cost of living, especially in Hanoi, the capital, renting a small apartment can cost between $125 to $300 per month, depending on the location and condition of the property. Food costs are also affordable, but the quality of food can vary. A simple meal at a local restaurant can cost between $1 to $3, while in supermarkets, items such as rice, vegetables, and meats are cheap, but imported goods come with higher prices. Many Vietnamese still choose to buy fresh and cheaper food at local markets, which directly impacts daily life for families. Transportation in Vietnam is quite affordable, with a network of popular motorcycles and buses, and motorcycles being the most common mode of transport, especially in major cities. However, traffic in Vietnam is known for its chaos and disorganization. In large cities like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, the streets are always congested with motorcycles, cars, and bicycles competing for space. The lack of traffic lights and clear signage in many areas only adds to the chaos of crossing the street. Pedestrians need to have a lot of courage, as drivers and motorcyclists rarely stop. The key to surviving is simply walking with confidence and calm, so that vehicles swerve around you, even if it means crossing moving traffic. The large number of motorcycles on the streets also makes mobility difficult, as they are the most common means of transport in the country. Often it is impossible to see the pedestrian crosswalk, as it is covered by a crowd of vehicles. The Vietnamese used to this reality have learned to navigate the streets almost instinctively. However, for tourists, crossing a simple street can be a real test of patience and courage, where the secret is to move calmly and steadily without hesitation. In Vietnam, social inequality is a reality that deeply affects millions of people, especially the most vulnerable in many areas. Extreme poverty forces people to make desperate decisions to ensure their survival, and often, crime presents itself as the only viable alternative. The promise of a better life seems distant for those living on the outskirts, where the wealth of a few starkly contrasts with the misery of many. This cycle of poverty and hopelessness keeps a large portion of the population stagnant without access to real growth opportunities. Gangs taking advantage of the vulnerability of marginalized populations find fertile ground in Vietnam to recruit new members. Young people who should be in school seeking a better life end up being drawn into crime by promises of easy money and an illusory sense of power. Failures in public policies regarding social inclusion and the uncontrolled growth of the population contribute to this scenario, making the environment conducive to criminality. The lack of resources and control over these social issues intensifies insecurity in the streets and poorer communities. Gangs and criminal organizations exploit the vulnerable situation many women find themselves in, forcing them to work in illicit activities, including the nightlife industry. For many, this form of labor becomes a means of survival, especially in large cities where poverty is even more visible. Young women with no job options and no access to education end up being victims of a sad reality, a situation that only perpetuates the cycle of violence and misery. Women who are forced into the nightlife industry face not only physical risks but also psychological ones. The lack of access to proper healthcare, psychological support, and social stigmatization makes their lives even harder for them. The reality is one of constant suffering and a lack of options. This scenario is further worsened by the lack of effective policies that could provide real alternatives for these women, such as access to education, professional training, and public health. Without these opportunities, they are left at the mercy of a corrupt industry perpetuating a vicious cycle of oppression and vulnerability. The reality in Vietnam, as in other countries with high levels of inequality, is a constant struggle for survival, or often the only way out of poverty is through painful and seemingly hopeless choices. Despite this sad reality in the country, Vietnamese women remain resilient and joyful, keeping hope alive in their hearts. Even in the face of daily challenges, they find the strength to move forward, facing obstacles with a smile and the determination to improve their lives. Their ability to adapt and overcome is something admirable, and it is reflected in their dedication to work and family. They are an example of how adversity can be faced with courage and optimism. Furthermore, Vietnamese women deeply value education and are always seeking to learn, with the awareness that education is one of the few doors to a better future. They strive to study and improve their living conditions. Many pursue courses, training, and even higher education, believing that the key to a more promising future lies in knowledge. This dedication to study and self-improvement is one of the greatest strengths of Vietnamese women. It is also very common to find these women working in the night markets of Vietnam, where life pulses until the early hours of the morning. These markets are a true representation of Vietnamese culture. With their bustling streets, colorful stalls, and a vast variety of products, they have a vibrant and unique atmosphere, offering not only goods but also an immersion in local traditions and customs. The sound of vendors calling out to passers-by and the soft glow of lanterns create an enchanting setting that attracts both tourists and locals. One of the most notable features of Vietnamese night markets is the delicious food found at every corner. The enticing aromas of fresh, spicy dishes are unmistakable, drawing many visitors to try the local delicacies. These markets are a paradise for food lovers, offering a variety of authentic flavors that reflect the country's culinary traditions. From street vendors to small outdoor restaurants, the options are endless. Among the typical dishes found at the night markets, pho is undoubtedly the most famous. This delicious dish is a noodle soup with beef or chicken accompanied by fresh herbs and spices that warm both the heart and soul. Another popular dish is banh mi, a Vietnamese sandwich filled with meat, fresh vegetables, herbs, and sauce, offering a combination of exotic flavors in every bite. In addition, nem spring rolls are highly sought after, filled with meat, shrimp, and vegetables, all wrapped in a thin layer of rice paper. Another gastronomic highlight is the seafood, such as shrimp and shellfish grilled on the spot. These are prepared simply, but with seasonings and sauces that enhance the fresh taste of the sea. Additionally, banh ju, a type of crispy fried pancake filled with meat, shrimp, and vegetables, is a true delicacy that delights any visitor. The contrast between the crispiness and the softness of the fillings creates an unforgettable taste experience. The night markets are also a great place to learn about Vietnam's cultural traditions, as well as enjoy the local culinary delights. Often vendors share stories about the dishes and the origins of the ingredients, making each meal even more special. These markets become a true window into Vietnamese life, with food taking center stage and a night full of discoveries and sensory pleasures. I hope you've learned a bit from our journey through the harsh reality that Vietnam faces. So hopefully you did enjoy the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for more videos like this one. We will see you in the next video. Thank you.